And we are live. What's up, guys? So today I'm pretty excited. We got John from Bulldog Mindset on, and this is someone I wanted to get on for quite a while. And the reason for this, well, there's several reasons, but I think one of the main reasons, I would say you're one of the very few quote unquote red pill guys who I respect. And that's because you don't just pigeonhole yourself and just spout off whatever red pill, is trending that day, but you actually are a critical thinker and you have your own opinions on shit. And I think, though, actually, even though we're kind of in a different niche, kind of the same niche, I actually think that our overarching beliefs are extremely similar. Like, I think that you and I probably disagree on very, very few things. So without further ado, we got John on. Thank you for coming on, bro.
Yeah. Thanks for having me, Alex. I'm excited to be here. So.
Likewise. So let's start off with, just for anyone who's not familiar with you, maybe give like a 1 to 2 minute introduction.
Sure. Yeah. So I run a company. I run a couple of companies, but my main brand right now is Bulldog Mindset. And really, it's dedicated to teaching men how to be men today, which is sorely needing, right? There's kind of this pussification of men in society today. And the way that I do that is not by, to draw the contrast, because you mentioned the red pill stuff. It's not by bashing women and talking about how bad society is and all of these things. It's by actually the opposite. So the Bulldog mindset to me is the exact opposite of the victim mindset, right? I feel like there's so much victim mindset. You see it in feminists, you see it in kind of MGTOW type of guys, and it's blaming other people and circumstances for your life. Instead, the Bulldog mindset's all about taking personal responsibility, saying, look, hey, life isn't fair. Shit might suck. It doesn't matter. It's up to me to fix it in my life, and blaming other people, it doesn't do me any good. So really, I focus on kind of like building a whole man. It's really deeply rooted in Stoic philosophy, which again, Stoic philosophy is basically the same thing as abandoning the victim mindset. They were the masters of this way back in the in the Roman days. And, and then I hit on the other areas. So mindset is key. And then from there, I talk about fitness, how to get in shape, how to become a guy that's strong and dominant in the physical space, the financial space, how to build a business, how to, become financially independent, and then the dating and relationship space, but not just like how to, pick up chicks and get laid, but also like how to be a masculine man in a relationship and that dynamic as well. So I kind of try to create the complete man.
Yeah, I think what you said cannot be overstated, especially the part about not being a victim. In my opinion, I think that victim mindset is probably the most detrimental thing that you can have, not only towards your game, but towards your happiness and success in life. You never see like rich people who are victims when it comes to business. It never happened. Like they never complain. I mean, maybe they complain a little bit, but they don't like, the odds are stacked against me, those Wall Street fuckers. And I think another important thing to reiterate is being empowered, or as you call, the Bulldog mindset. It's not about denying the truth. It's not like living in, blue pill fantasy land. You acknowledge the reality, and you're right. Like there are some things that are unfortunate. Like right now, there's hypergamy, and there's like, some shit out there. Like, if you're getting divorced, a lot of states, you'll get fucked over. That's like, it's not denying the truth. You acknowledge that, but what good does it do to just kind of just sit on the internet and bitch about it day in, day out? Like, that's not going to benefit you in any way. And like, I think big part of your message is just taking personal responsibility for everything that you have control over and taking as much action as possible.
Yep. Yeah. 100%. Yeah. That's exactly it. Again, it's like, I think, a lot of people get upset when I deliver that message, because they're like, oh yeah, you're just like blaming men and all these things. And it's like, no, I'm just saying like, hey, I didn't make the rules of the game. We need to understand what they are. And, I think a lot of guys, they read, The Rational Male, by Rollo, and they get, it's their like red pill awakening, and they get pissed off. That's their response. It's like they're angry now. And it's like, my response is like, from a Stoic response, is just to look at it. It's like, I want to know what the reality is. And then I don't have any judgment about the reality. It is what it is. But now that I know it, now I have the rules to the game, because before I was playing this game, I didn't know what the rules were. Now I know what the rules are. And the more that we get this kind of red pill knowledge, we understand this. And so now we can, from a non-emotional place, as men, we should not be driven by our emotions. Now we can say, okay, I know the rules. I see what the chessboard is, where the pieces are. Okay, what's my best move? And that it doesn't just apply to dating, but it just applies to life in general. It's like, wherever you are, okay, you can get upset about things. Things might be unfair. Odds might be stacked against you. But at the end of the day, all that matters is objectively looking at where do the pieces lie and what's your best move, and to do that with as little as motion as possible, because emotion steers you down the wrong direction. So
yeah, I mean, I think a big part of it is it's just easier to be a victim than to take action, right? Because it's easier to just go online and bitch than go out and fail. I think a big part of it is also protecting your ego. So I think a lot of these guys, they were, living in the blue pill fantasy land, as the red pillars like to call it. And then, they had some bad experiences. Then they read the Rational Mail, or they stumble upon the Reddit red pill community, like, oh shit, it's not my fault. And they almost feel like, like liberated, because like, it's not my fault. The odds are stacked against me. Like it's impossible for me to succeed, right? But I think it's really important to, have guys like me and you who show that, like, yeah, obviously you and I are not like, super disadvantaged. I mean, I can only speak for myself. Like, I am a decent looking guy, but, I do have my own issues like that a lot of guys don't know about. I've struggled with chronic Lyme disease. I've had neck injuries. I was a virgin until I was 19. Again, probably not nearly as much as some guys. But the point is to show guys that even in 2021, with some of the odds being, not too great, you can still succeed. And you can really succeed. Like, I would say, like, for me, like, I have the sex and dating life I always jerked off to when I was like 18, 19. I mean, like, sure, there's room for improvement, but like, it is definitely achievable if you have the right strategy and you're willing to put in the work. I mean, do you find that as well? Like, if you're willing to put in the work and you have the right strategy, you can really just achieve whatever you put your mind to with time.
Yeah. That's the thing, is like, so many people have this viewpoint that it's like you have to get lucky, and there is luck involved in business or in any endeavor, but you have to put in the work so that you can take advantage of, like, we all get lucky opportunities in life. It's just that most of us don't recognize the ones that come along, or we're not prepared to take advantage of those opportunities. And the thing is, one of my favorite books is by Stephen Pressfield. It's called The War of Art, and one of my favorite quotes in that book is he says, as long as you keep those huskies mushing, you'll eventually pull into no. And I think about that all the time. It's like, all you got to do is just keep on going. It's like, I have a bunch of guys I coach with their YouTube channel.
This is the husky that I have munching. Wait, let me see. You guys see him? He's laying on the couch.
Oh, there you go. Nice. But I have a couple of guys that were on my mastermind call this morning with their YouTube channels, and they're like, I just keep on making videos, I'm not growing. And I'm like, you just have to keep on going. You just have to trust the process. And as long as you keep on going, you'll eventually get there. It's a grind. Life is a grind. I mean, guys that start off in game, and they're like, because we get so many haters now in the black pill community, they're like, oh yeah, game is bullshit. It doesn't work. It's, these guys are con artists. And I'm like, well, the problem is
how many layer reports do you have to put on the internet? 100, 200 before you finally get to a point where, like, you know what, maybe you can get laid.
Well, they're never going to believe it because they tried it, right? And they approached like 10 girls, and they're like, I got rejected 10 times. And, I remember I made a video that the black pill guys hate. They're like, where I said that you might have to do 300 approaches to get one result. And they're like, that's not worth it. The juice isn't worth the squeeze. That's not game. That's ridiculous. I'm like, oh, it's starting out, like, it's a grind. Like, everything is a grind. And it's like, if you're willing to do the grind, like any guy that I know that's gotten good at game, it was a grind. There's guys I know that had no results for 2 years. They're out 4 nights a week, and then they finally, hit the point where they had enough mastery to actually become good at it. And it's just like, but everything in life is a grind. If you're not willing to put in the work, but if you realize that everything in life is a grind, that's where the magic is, because then you realize that, it's the mindset, Carol Dweck, the new mindset. It's having that mindset of saying that, that you can grow, and you can change, you can transform. And the key is putting in the work over and over again. Because if you do that, if you find some process that works, then you'll eventually get there. You'll eventually, get to gnome. So.
Yeah, I think it's a combination of having the right strategy, because if you're doing the wrong work, that's not going to get you anywhere, and taking massive action, right? You need both of those things. If you're if you're running up to random girls in the street and calling them dog and running away, you can do 100 of those approaches, but the best you're going to get is maybe a slap in the face.
Yeah.
So let's start with this. So how did you personally go down this rabbit hole? And if you can find that, I know that in one of your interviews you have a photo of, like, where you were, like, I don't know, how many was that, 20 years ago? How long ago was that?
Yeah, I think probably like maybe 10 to 15 years ago. Yeah, I'll see if I'll pull it up on my Dropbox here. Let me see here. But But yeah, I mean, I had a few different transformations that I went through in life. You know, the thing is, what I discovered though is that because I went through a physical transformation first and it didn't stick, and a lot of it was because what my transformation was external, in the sense that what I was trying to do is I was trying to get validation from other guys, from girls, and so I wasn't doing things for myself, and you know, to really you know, become a better person. Instead, I was trying to get that validation, and because of that, it didn't stick, right? And actually, let me see, I'll show you a picture here. Okay, yeah, here's probably a good one. So let me share this. Here we go. Okay, yeah, so this is me. Fat picture.
Yeah. How old were you when this picture was taken?
Well, let's see, looks like this is 02, right? So this is what, oh, so that, yeah, 2002. So 20 years ago, is that right? No, that's too long. That can't be 02. And it must have been, I must have been like 20 something. Like that. I was definitely before I was 30. So, but
so what was the catalyst for you embarking on this, you know, journey of transformation?
gosh, yeah, you know, well, for that particular one, what ended up happening was I remember going to the store to buy some pants, and I had to buy size 46 pants because my 44s didn't fit. And that was the point where I was like, damn, John, you're a fucking fat ass.
Dude, that's great. I'm size 29. I'm size 30.
Yeah. Yeah. So, because, you know, I was like size 34 or whatever. And then, you know, I ballooned up to 46. And that at that point, you know, I realized, and I kind of had this awakening moment where I was like, look, you know, I have this theory that everyone kind of thinks they're going to be a rock star someday. And what it means is that, like, you know, everyone kind of envisions, all right, someday I'm going to have that life of like a famous person. I'm going to have a lot of money. I'm going to have all these girls. And it's like, you kind of know it's not real, but you kind of think that, imagine that it'll just happen someday for you. And I realized that I was living this delusion because I had these false beliefs about myself. I thought I was confident. I thought I was not fat. I thought all these things. And I realized that, like, you know, and again, it's part of the victim mindset of believing that, well, if it weren't just for other people like doing stuff to me, then everything would be great. If girls just realize how good of a guy that I was, if you know, other people just realize how talented I was, you know, all of these things. And I realized that all that was bullshit, and that if I wanted to potentially live the life that I had dreamed of, like you said, the 18 to 19-year-old, you know, sex life that you had, you know, that you had jerked off to, like, if I wanted to actually have that life, that I would actually have to take action and make that happen. Otherwise, there was no way it was going to happen. And the path that I was on in life was leading me down a different direction. So, you know, I kind of realized, you know, I think I was probably like in my late 20s, and I was like, look, it's got to happen now. Like, you got to turn around now. There's no like starting next week. There's like, you know, you got to do this now. So I started working on losing weight. I started working on hustling, stopped watching TV, stopped doing, you know, bullshit activities, started reading books, and started taking my business and my career seriously. And just, you know, I had the fear of God in me, knowing that, like, hey, you get one life. This isn't a dress rehearsal. And if you want to live that awesome kind of life that you imagined, you know, that you dreamed of, then you're going to have to make it happen. And so that was the motivator that made me just go that direction and never turn back.
Now, was it like an instant thing? Like one day you just start taking massive action, or was it like very gradual?
So that particular one was an instant thing, but I think it was brewing in the background, right? I think that, like, just, I was ready for that moment. It's what, you know, Tony Robbins calls them breakthroughs, right? I had this breakthrough at that particular moment, but I had like several of these, right? Looking at, I think Elliot Hulse is a great example of that. If you've ever followed his life, because he has these catharsises, right? He goes like underground, like he becomes up and he's a different person. And it's like, that's his path of growth. And, you know, I've watched him over the course of his life, and I've had the pleasure of meeting him and consider him a friend, and I've seen him change, like, even just from me talking to him from one time to another. But it's like, you know, you kind of have these things that happen in your life, and you have these periods of stagnation, and then you have these rapid periods of growth, like if you're on that path of personal development. So for me, in that moment, that was like an instantaneous thing. That next day I was on my diet, I was running, I was reading, because I had enough, there was enough buildup in my mind to where it changed my mindset. Because you have to really, like, actions always flow from identity. And as soon as that identity changes, all the actions change.
Now, was it primarily motivated by women or just general?
It was just general. I think, initially before that period of time, I'd gone through a different transformation when I was in high school, actually, because I had gone from being out of shape, kind of really introverted, dorky kind of guy to getting in shape and becoming athletic and stuff like that. And that first transformation was completely motivated by women, by wanting validation, right? And that one didn't stick. But the second one, I kind of learned from that. And this one was more about just like my own potential of not wasting my life, of living to, because you kind of view yourself in a way that, that's like maybe higher than, like, you feel like you deserve something better than what you actually are. And so I realized that I wanted to match up to be what I thought I deserved, right? Because there was
Let me just comment on what you just said. I think that it's good if you feel like that, and I also have that same mindset, but I think a lot of guys don't feel that. Like, they actually feel like they're entitled to nothing, right? So I think that you do have a healthy mindset when it comes to that. Like, like I get a lot of clients who feel like they're entitled to shit. Like, maybe they're like attractive, successful, but they feel like the best they're entitled to is just like some like fatty, you know what I mean?
So yeah, so it's interesting about that, right? Because I think it's a subtle flip, right? So I talk about this idea a lot about like of having delusions of grandeur. I have delusions of grandeur, right?
Yeah,
I think I'm better than
100%. Yeah,
right. And
100%.
people are like, "What? You shouldn't do that. You should be humble." And like, I'm like, "Fuck that!" Because if you set the bar low, you're gonna maybe you get over a low bar, but that's not gonna help you in life. Like, having delusions of grandeur that you have to live up to this high expectation you have of yourself, that's better than anything else. In fact, I mean, you know this as a coach, right? When do you perform the best? It's when you're in the situation. Yeah, you got a couple of guys that are watching you, and you're like, watch this, and then you like pull off some shit that you never had done before, because guys are watching you, and you're under that pressure, because they have this high expectation of you, and you have this high expectation of you, and now you rise up to deliver. But I think a lot of guys that feel like they're not entitled, it's like there's almost this reverse. They feel like they're too good, that they don't want to take a risk, right? Because it will shatter their belief of themselves.
You see that with a lot of naturals.
Yeah, and guys think that, and it's weird because it's almost it's like the entitlement has to change from like a false entitlement to a real entitlement. It's like they've got this false belief of who they are, but they really know it's not true. And so, but they're holding on to it, and they're trying to convince everyone else. That's like, it's like an arrogance almost. It's like, okay, look how good I am. Look how confident I am. I'm good with women. I'm all these things, but they don't really believe it themselves. So they want someone else to validate their belief. And so it's like moving to a real entitlement where you're like, no, I'm better than this. I have standards for myself. Like, this is what I deserve in life because I'm worth it. And then you rise to that. So I think it's like, it almost feels like the same thing, but it's a completely different thing, because one of them is like this expectation that you have about how other people should treat you, and the other one's a standard that you have for how you should be yourself and what you deserve, and how you should call yourself accountable.
Do you feel motivated by anger sometimes? Because I know for me personally, that's a huge drive. Like, I worked the hardest after we had the Vice article came down. I lost my Facebook group. After that, I was like working way hard, because I was like, fuck these fucking faggots, like these fucking piece of shit. They think they're better than me. And like, that's like, and I'm constantly motivated by like, when I have periods in my life when everything is going well, like I still do the work. It's a matter of habit at this point. But like, I work harder when there's that like controversy or that conflict. Do you kind of feel like that, or not really?
I wouldn't say like the anger part of it. Like, I have my view on anger is that anger is always a result of expectations that are not met. And so I try to have no expectations on the world, no expectations on people, on women, on anything in the world, just like it, because it's ridiculous. Because having expectation on a person, let's say how a woman should behave, is just as ridiculous as having expectation on what the weather should be, because you have just as much control over that, right? And so I release all the I have standards for myself, and I won't allow people to violate my boundaries and to so because of that, I don't really get angry, but certainly I would say like there's a motivation of what I say is like you have these kind of lesser motivations, and then those unlock higher motivations. So the lesser motivations are things like revenge. I want to get back at this person. I want to prove myself. I want to, show people that I'm worth something in life. And you have to kind of fulfill those lesser motivations in order to unlock the higher motivations in life to be actually altruistic. Because people that say, "Oh, I'm altruistic, I'm just doing this for the good of mankind," usually those people are full of shit, because unless they've got their selfish motivations out of the way first, then you can't get to that point. But I know, like in my life, in the course of reaching success, when I first started out, like I said, it was first, oh, I'm going to show people that I'm worth something. Oh, I'm pissed at all these girls that rejected me in the past. And so that's what kind of got me started. And I think you need that to get to a certain point. And then after I had achieved those things, and then I was like, okay, this kind of is empty, because it doesn't really matter if I got back at these people. It doesn't really matter what these, I remember going just a couple of years ago, going to my high school reunion, and I was like, okay, I don't actually really care what these people think. It's like, yeah, I've blown them away, and they're like, oh my God, I can't believe that, what John is now. And it's like, and I was thinking in my mind, I'm like, yeah, I'm going to show them. And then when I got there, I was like, yeah, you know what? Like, I showed them, but big fucking deal. Right. And so I think what ends up happening is then, like in my life, I started to have different motivations. And so like now, maybe my motivations with Bulldog Mindset, it's really about, sharing the knowledge and the wisdom that I can to help guys. And it's pretty true. I mean, it's a business. Obviously I'm making money. Like I'm not going to deny that, but that's not the thing that's pushing me. It's not the revenge. It's not like I'm not trying to prove anything, because I'm happy where I am. And so, but I had to go through those stages to get there. So definitely I think it's a good fuel. And especially like guys that are listening, like if you're angry or you got something like that, like if you need to use that fuel to get to where you need to get to, use it, but then realize that you have to let go of it at some point and look for something better to push you to a better purpose in life to push you forward, because that's not going to carry you to the success that you need to. It'll only carry you so far.
Yeah, I mean, well said, man. What you're saying really reminds me of the interview I did. Brian Biggin from The Fearless Man?
No, I'll have to look him up.
Yeah, cool guy. He's like, like skinny bald guy, but like he is, I would say, the most legit inner game coach I've ever seen, right? He's all about emotions and all that. So, I think most of that stuff is 100% bullshit, but Brian is actually like based in reality and science and results. But anyway, so what he was saying is something that was very interesting that kind of, something I never realized, is that he said that basically everyone starts at different ladders on the scale in terms of like with their state. And he said that, like, for example, kind of what you were saying, that anger, revenge is kind of like in the middle, right?
Right.
Like I thought that was like kind of like, I didn't think about this, but he said that apathy is below. And what he was pointing out is the guys who are in anger, like if they take massive action, they will get results, which is where I was when I started pickup. Like I was never in full on apathy. I was just like, fuck, like, why do these girls not like me? Like, what the fuck? Like, why are all my friends getting laid? So, and I took massive action. I got results. But I did notice I had some friends who also took massive action and they did not get results. And again, Brian explained that's because they were in apathy. So every time they had a rejection, instead of fueling their drive, it just reinforced the fact that they suck. So
exactly.
That's kind of very.
And that's an argument that a lot of like people that are really against pickup use all the time. They're like, I remember, I don't want to call out names, but one of my friends that has a decent sized YouTube channel, I was actually going back and forth on his channel in the comments. We were kind of fighting in the comments before we became friends.
I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
I won't say.
Yeah, he's got a different viewpoint, but I like him now. And but even still, he still kind of holds this viewpoint a little bit. But he would say that, okay, you guys that are telling guys that have no confidence to go out and approach women, what you're doing is you're driving their confidence further into the ground, because they're going to approach all these girls and they're going to get rejected, and that's going to reinforce their belief that they suck, and you're going to just destroy their confidence. So instead, they should look for choosing signals and go after the girls that are giving them positive signals. And my response is like, no, it depends on how you frame it. Because when I coach guys, the way I frame it is I'm like, look, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go and talk to that girl. But here's the thing. You win if you make yourself uncomfortable, because what I want you to do, I don't care about you getting laid. I don't care about that right now. Eventually, yeah, sure. But what I care about is I want you to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, because I know that every time that you get in a uncomfortable situation and you maintain it, you endure it, you grow as a man. And I know if you grow enough, you'll eventually have the life that you want, and you'll become the guy that you want to become. And so right now, if as long as you just go up and talk to a girl, if it makes you uncomfortable, bam, you just need to give yourself a pat on the back, silently, because you should be cheering for yourself, because that's great, because that's a win, because you know that you advanced your skill and your ability, because most people cannot put themselves in uncomfortable situations. So you've done that. So if it's framed that way, then when guys go in and they approach, even if they get rejected, they don't care, because they already won just by overcoming the fear, just by making the choice to put themselves in an uncomfortable situation, because you grow from that. Whereas if it's framed in such that, if you're coming into it saying, well, girls don't really like me, let me show you, let me prove it to you by going and talking to this girl, I guess I'll give it a try. And then she gives you a rejection, and then you're like, well, see, I told you. Then it does destroy your confidence, and you will go down. So it just depends on how you frame the things. And it's like, I always try to make it anything I'm doing in life where I can win, right? I make it so, because it's the only sensible thing to do. It's like, like we were talking about grinding, or, trusting the process. And like, if you eventually take steps, you'll get there. Even when I schedule my day, like with business, I don't make a to-do list anymore. Instead, I use a Pomodoro system, and I say I need to get 8 Pomodoro done per day. Okay. And that's like a 25-minute time block. All right. And if I do that, I win. Right. And that I can control directly. I can't control whether I get every item in my to-do list checked off. I can't control whether I get results. I can make a YouTube video and it could flop. I've done sales on my email list where the sale completely flopped, and it wasn't worth the copywriter that I paid for the promotion. But it doesn't matter, because I give myself a win for taking the steps and doing what needs to be done, not for getting, because the results are not in my control. I can only, string the bow and aim the arrow and let go. And then after that, it's up to fate. So
I think there's so much to unpack with what you just said. So let me try to go through this point by point. I think that, and I agree with everything you just said, but I think that, first of all, a big issue that guys have is they have unrealistic expectations of, like, I had a coaching client a few days ago, and he was like telling me, he's like, man, like, I feel like, I get laid, but my game isn't efficient. I feel like I have to do so much work to get results. I was like, all right, well, let's break this down. Like, how many, what's roughly your success rate? He's like, if I approach 10 girls, maybe I'll get 1 phone number and 1 date. And I was like, dude, like, for a beginner intermediate, that's actually pretty good statistics. I was like, do you want to know what my statistics are? He's like, I don't know, like 50, 60. I'm like, no, dude, like, if I get 10 matches on Tinder, maybe I'll meet up with one of those chicks. If I'm going out cold approach and I approach 10 girls, maybe I'll get 3 numbers, and one of those will probably lead to a date in LA. Like, you will fail with most of the stuff you do. Like, every video I put out, I try to make a viral video. Like, a small fraction of my videos actually go viral. Like, when I was starting and then with business, like when I first got into sales, before I even did, PWF, vast majority of prospects I talked to did not buy the product. Right. But you have to be okay with, like, playing the odds, and you need to have realistic expectations. So what you can do is you optimize, again, it doesn't matter, game, we're talking sales, we're talking business, whatever. All you do is optimize the odds by having a good strategy and developing the skill set. But the second aspect of it is running massive volume. Our mutual friend, Jay Molv, like, he's pretty upfront with us. Like, yeah, the key to my success, I have a good strategy, but I run massive volume, right? And exactly. I think a lot of guys just forget about that. Like, they think a lot of guys have this, I don't know, like, delusion. They think that, for example, someone like me and you, we go out and we can fuck any girl we set our eyes to. But in reality, unless we're only approaching warm leads, we're gonna get rejected the majority of the time. Now, our rejections aren't going to be like brutal. The girl's going to be like, hey, it's really nice to meet you, but, I have a boyfriend, right? Like, usually it's very rare that I get like a actual severe rejection. That's what my rejections look like. But that is still a rejection. And I can look at it as like, oh, fuck. Oh, God, another failure. Or I just look at it like, yeah, I was expecting that. Now I'm going to go in and put in more work. And also I had fun. Now, the second thing with what you said that, I've seen you talk about this in other podcasts, is like this high that you get when you overcome your fears. Like, if you have something that makes you nervous and you do it, whether you succeed or not, you feel like really good. And that's something I've personally experienced many times, especially when I was getting into game. And I think that everyone has fear. Like, we all have different baselines for fear. Like, you might have a little bit more fear than me, a little bit less fear than me. We all have different baselines, but we all, and that's, due to upbringing, hormones, health, whatever, where we're at in life. But we all have it. The difference between guys who are successful and guys who are not successful is the guys who are successful continuously challenge their fear and constantly overcome it. And what happens when you do that is the baseline resets after a while. and it becomes a little bit more and a little bit more. So to the point, like when I first got into game, I'm sure you can relate to this, like doing cold approach was pretty scary. Now it's mildly uncomfortable, but like I wouldn't say it's scary. So I think that you just, continuously overcoming your fears. I think the guys who don't become successful, they basically let the fear win versus the guys who overcome their fears.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's interesting. Like you can rewire that because like fear itself, that emotion, like the physical state of fear, it's the same exact physical response in the body as excitement. It's anticipation, right? And that's what it is. And so, I've kind of rewired in my brain because I enjoy that feeling of conquering the fear. Like it's addictive. It's like the most addictive thing. In fact, that's why so many people like get involved in extreme sports and they do all kinds of crazy stuff and they keep on taking it to the next level, is because they're trying to get that adrenaline rush and they have to do something that's even more extreme, more fear, that because the other stuff doesn't scare them anymore. So they need to do something that actually scares them, gets their heart pumping. And so when I started shifting my approach to that, then now it's like, I see something scary and I'm like, yeah, I hope this guy challenges me to like go and go do something crazy, go talk to that girl, do something so I can go do it. Cause that will make me, that I'll feel that fear, which I'll turn into excitement in my own mind because it's the same exact physical response in the body. And then it's anticipation in my mind. I'm like, yeah, this is going to feel so good when I actually go and do this thing, when I conquer this fear. And so instead of having the fear response where you're averting fear, you start to rewire it where you're like attracted to fear, where you're like, damn, yeah, this sounds great. Like I totally want to do something that's going to scare me. And, you can really rewire your brain that way. And the other part about fear is, I used to be really fearful. I was afraid to fly in airplanes and I had a lot of fears. And I kept on thinking in my head that, eventually the fear will go away, right? Eventually I'll become braver or whatever it is. And that never happens. Fear only takes up larger and larger portion of your life as it goes on. And you see this with people that, have these little phobias and then eventually they become afraid to leave their house, right? They start to have these huge phobias.
You're talking about people who don't challenge their fears, the people who just let the fears get to them, right?
Exactly. And what I discovered was that, that actually fear is uncontrollable. You cannot control your fear, right? It is wired into the lizard part of your brain, but you can always choose to have courage. And that is the key and courage can be strengthened. And the more that you make the choice to have courage, the more that courage muscle becomes stronger. And then it doesn't matter. Fear doesn't matter if you have courage, because at any moment you can choose to have courage. You can never choose to shut off fear, but you can always choose to have courage. And so focusing on fear is the wrong thing. Focusing on choosing to have courage, that's the right thing, because that's going to carry you far.
Yeah, so. And the good news is that your baseline of fear, or baseline of anxiety, it never really completely goes away, but it does get less. Like the more you challenge it, like, the amount of anxiety I get now from, let's say, doing a podcast, right? It's like close to none, right? Like, but there's still a little bit, right? Like I want to do a good job, I want to make sure I have my questions, I'll like, do I fucking have a pimple on my face, right? Versus, when I first started doing podcasts, like, it gave me a good amount of anxiety. So it does lower. I think that, kind of my observation has been is a lot of inner game problems that guys have really at the end of the day boil down to fear.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah. 100%. That's like, it's funny because, I get asked this all the time, especially by when girls ask me like, oh, because they see my Instagram, they're like, oh, what do you coach guys on mostly? With like, with a dating or whatever. And I'm like, well, to be honest, like 90% of it is just overcoming the fear of going and talking to the girl. It's like there, obviously there's more to game than that, but 90% of the guys I work with, that is the problem. And that's the thing that they're facing. And if they can overcome that problem, then the rest.
Fear of rejection, fear of escalation, fear of intimacy, fear of being perceived as a creep. I mean, there's so many different kinds of fears. And if you consistently overcome fear. Well, I want to change gears and talk about this. So one thing that you commonly talk about is how men have become giant pussies nowadays, which I 100% agree with. I think the amount of pussification that I see, like, honestly, I've talked about this before, but like usually when guys suck at game and the issue is like internal, like some guys, they just have the wrong strategy. And those are the easiest guys to coach because you give them the correct strategy. And if they have good inner game, they apply it and they have good results. But some guys, you give them the best strategy ever. If they're internally, they're fucked, like it's going to be a fucking struggle. And I think a lot of that does boil down to guys being pussies. Mm-hmm. What are specific things you would recommend for guys to depussify themselves?
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing is what we already talked about, which is stepping into discomfort purposely, right? So, so one of the things that I really try to guide guys is to use pain and fear as your compass in life. You should be pushing into the direction of pain and fear, right? So, a lot of things I do in life, I think David Goggins is a great example. A lot of people are following him, and it's like, sometimes you do shit just because it sucks, right? I actually, I did.
Let me go do 10,000 push-ups, says David Goggins.
Exactly. I actually, I run marathons, and I did ultra running last year. I ran a 50 miler. I was trained for 100. I ended up getting sick and didn't end up being able to do it, but I did run a 50 miler, and I'm 240 pounds. Like it's to me to go and train for ultra distance. It's tough. Like it was pain. It's a lot of pain for sure. And, and I did it. A lot of people are asking, well, why did you do this? And I'm like, because it sucks, because I wanted to experience that pain and push myself through this because I want to become stronger. And so like, if you want to depussify, you have to be looking at opportunity. You have to see the world in terms of what's the thing that makes me uncomfortable and how can I do more of it? Because that's really what it is, right? So you think about like being a nice guy. Why are guys stuck into this nice guy pussy type of frame? It's because they're afraid. You can read the book No More Mr. Nice Guy by Dr. Robert Glover. It's a really good book. And he talks about the idea of like having this inner shame and, and basically covert contracts and all this stuff. And what it really boils down to is that you're afraid to assert what you want because you're afraid of the reaction, right? So it's fear. It makes you uncomfortable to say no. It makes you uncomfortable to say, I want that. It makes you uncomfortable to say, get on your knees. You know what I mean? Like it makes you uncomfortable to say what you want from people, and that's why you do the things that you do. You're a yes man. You agree. You're a pleaser is not because that's what you want to do. It's because you're afraid, because it makes you uncomfortable to do. So if you start pushing into things that make you uncomfortable, for a lot of guys, I remember the first time when I signed up for martial arts, right? I was afraid to get punched in the face, right? So I was like, I'm like, so a lot of times in high school and stuff, I would avoid conflict because I'm like, I don't want to get hit, right? But, I signed up, got into a Muay Thai class, and I got popped in the face a couple of times. And, I realized I was like, fuck. It's not that bad to get hit in the face. Big fucking deal. Like this whole time I was living my life being afraid to get punched in the face, right? And so now, I'm willing to suffer the discomfort of getting hit, okay? And if you're willing to do that, then now in physical confrontation, you're not going to be a pussy because you're like, it doesn't fucking matter. So what? I tumble around in the grass, I get punched, I get a black eye. Doesn't fucking matter. I've done it before. I'll do it again. I don't care. Not to say that you should just be going around trying to get into fights, but sign up for martial arts. Pick all the things in life that scare you, that make you uncomfortable, and start doing that shit. Go on stage and fucking give a talk. You know what I mean? Go do a fucking bodybuilding show where you have to stand in your fucking underwear in a Speedo on, you know what I mean? Like go on a podcast, like start a YouTube channel, put yourself on camera. The first time you put yourself on camera, you're going to see what a fucking pussy you are and how bad you sound and how ridiculous you look. And people will be brutal with you in the YouTube comments and say, that you stutter or whatever. And you have to deal with that. So like do all the shit that makes you uncomfortable.
Like and subscribe to my channel.
Exactly.
Value. Yeah.
You should see my old, like, if you guys are go to my channel, go look.
I did. I watched videos of you 4 years ago, and you're like, yeah, you can tell.
It was bad. But
you didn't
gotta go through that shit.
I mean, I didn't see the ones from 10 years ago. I saw the ones from 4 years ago, but there's a difference. And like, you can definitely see that with my videos as well. Like my channel's 3 years. If you watch my early videos, like my voice is a lot more high pitched. I'm like trying to like get everything out. Like I'm a little stiff and shit. So yeah, it only improves as you practice. What about some external things? I know you're big on fitness, putting on muscle, 100% in agreement. Finance, becoming financially independent, 100% in agreement. And I think those things are necessary. Not necessary, but they're highly beneficial to becoming less of a pussy. Because if you're walking around with a lot of muscle, you're going to feel more like a man. That's like at the end of the day. I don't know. I mean, part of it, I guess, is definitely internal, but I feel more masculine now that, I look pretty good without a shirt. Like I did when I weighed 135 pounds at, 5'11". What are some other external things that you recommend for guys to like be less of a pussy? I know you mentioned martial arts, which is something I personally never tried, but what else?
Yeah. So definitely, like you said, I mean, getting some size to you, getting to the gym and stuff. And part of it is mental and part of it's physical, right? You're going to go through the sacrifice and pain that it takes. One of the things that I did for like basically 5 years was I ate one meal a day. I fasted, fasting
Okay.
also, right? Because when you eat one meal a day and you're working out, a lot of the other shit that happens in life, you're like, fuck that. I don't care. Like, it's not a big deal anymore. Cause you're like, if I can deal with this shit, I can deal with like whatever mild annoyance happens in my life. And then, getting your money together, right, is also, there's basically, so I'll put it this way. There's three main fears that all guys have that are insecurities. And if you don't overcome these in life, you're never going to truly feel like a man. The first one is the fear of death, or you could say getting punched in the face. It's kind of like when you watch one of those movies like Braveheart and you're like, would I actually go and fight, or would I would run? You know what I mean? If you feel like you would run, if you feel like you couldn't go into battle and fight for your, and risk your life, then you're gonna feel like a pussy. You won't ever feel like a real man. So you can overcome that by getting in the ring, getting punched in the face. You know what I mean? Like facing physical confrontation in combat. The second one is the fear of not being a self-made man, right? And so this, if you just get a paycheck from someone else and you feel like you don't really deserve, if you feel like you can't make your own money or make your own way in this world, you're always going to have that fear, like you're not, like someone else is helping you, that you're not a self-made man. And so getting over that fear will also, depussify you. And then the third one is that procuring a woman, okay, like that you could go out and really, I think what I mean by this is cold approach, right? If you feel like you couldn't just go and talk to a woman that you find attractive and get her to be attracted to you, then you don't feel like a man. And so conquering all three of those areas of your life, that's probably going to be the biggest thing that's going to make you feel more like a man and feel more masculine than anything else. Because if you're missing one of those, you know it and you feel it and you think about it every day. It's like nagging at the back of your brain that, yeah, I'm not the guy. I can't do this. And so, because those are really the three kind of maybe instinctual drives we have as men, is we want to feel like, yeah, we can fight if we need to, we can make our own money and be self-sufficient, take care of other people, contribute to society and take care of ourselves, basically pull our own wagon. And then third, hey, we can mate. We can, we have, the ability to go and attract a woman and to be a guy that is able to overcome that fear. So those are kind of the three main.
That's not what we do at PWF. We don't try to bang chicks. Come on now, we're all about mental masturbation and whatnot. But yeah, I definitely agree with all that. I think also just getting comfortable in your own skin. Like I can tell you, like I had so many weird little phobias growing up. Like one was, I've never even talked about this. I was petrified to take a shit anywhere besides my house. I remember I went to sleepaway camp once and I held my shit in for 5 fucking days.
Shit.
5 days. Day number 3 at camp, I was miserable. Like the kids were trying to play with me. I was just sitting there like trying not to shit myself. I even remember I went to the toilet once and then I looked at the toilet. I was like, I can't do this. I'm just going to hold this in. I remember I came home. I was like, hey, how's camp? I just sprinted past her straight for the toilet.
Nice.
Another big one I had was it felt so weird for me to be naked. Like I was just so uncomfortable with my body. So I would like, even if I when I was like 19, 20, I'd fuck a girl, like I would immediately want to put my clothes on. Like I would, like now I'll just lay naked. Like I don't give a fuck, but like I think just getting over these like weird little like fears and just, I don't know. I think that's also a big part of just being comfortable in your own skin and also with who you are. Like I used to be self-conscious, like, oh, is my sense of humor too much? Do I come off weird? Now I'm at a point where I don't give a shit. Like you either like me or you don't. Like I hope you like me, but I don't really care if you don't. So I think that's also a big part of it.
And that's kind of like, that's the core of what I'm saying about putting yourself into uncomfortable situations and just I had a coaching client of mine and he was like, I was texting him because he was long distance and he was in New York going to a bar, and I was like, just talk to a girl. That's like your assignment, because we were doing Skype calls. And he's like, it's different for me. I feel uncomfortable just standing here. And I'm like, good. I'm like, perfect. Let's see how uncomfortable we can make you. I want you to just go up. I want you to talk to the girl and say hi. And then I want you to not say anything else. I want you to just keep your mouth shut and just like, she'll be like, what are you talking about? Or, whatever. just keep your mouth shut. Just stay there. See how long you can sweat it out. Just like stay uncomfortable as long as possible, because the more that you're uncomfortable and you just like sit with it and become comfortable with being uncomfortable. Like you said, everything from taking a shit in a foreign bathroom to being naked, like all those things, it's because it makes you uncomfortable. And if you can just endure it, then you're like, it's actually not that bad. I can be comfortable with being uncomfortable, and then bam, that's where you become comfortable in your own skin, because then you're like, hey, I don't give a fuck. I don't care what people think. I don't care. I can say what I want. You know what I mean? So you get to that point, and that's really, like, you think about, the difference between like an alpha guy and a pussy. And actually, John Anthony, he did a really great video talking about, the pussy test, where like you see a guy and like you can instantly tell, or like you ask someone, and I thought it was genius, because we can tell whether someone's a pussy or not just by instant assessment, and it really boils down to whether they're comfortable in their own skin or not. Like if they're like, if they give a fuck about you and what other people think about them, then we consider them to be a pussy. But if they don't, we don't. So
100%. So let's say someone's listening to this and they're like, you know what, fuck it, I'm motivated as hell, which is the goal. I do want to get people motivated, right? So they're watching this, they feel motivated, and they start taking action. What are some common pitfalls they need to watch out for?
Some common pitfalls. Okay, so I would say the biggest one, which we had already talked about, is thinking that you can just do something and it's instantly going to work, right? And we're seeing this now with the GameStop thing, right? All these guys, I've been given warnings on my channel. I've been like, look, don't even fuck with this shit. Don't even fuck with this shit. Why? Because you're trying to hustle and make money quickly. Like, it's because the reason why you're sucking at life, why you're not making money, why you're not actually growing your business or starting a business, is because you're looking for one hustle to jump to the next hustle in money. You're doing the same thing with women, right? You're like, okay, let me buy this person's dating program and let me watch it, and then I'm suddenly going to become a stud. No, you have to put in the fucking work, and you have to grind it out. And so the biggest pitfall, I think, that people are excited, they're like, yes, I'm going to do this, I'm going to change my life, is this. It's like they think that they're not going to fall off the horse. You will. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to fuck up. You're going to have a whole road of failures. But you have to see each failure as a step to success, right? If you see each failure as a punch in the face, and it's like, oh yeah, I told you life always beats me down, you're not going to make it very far. And the thing that I talk about to all of my guys that will make you more successful in life than anything else is it's not fucking up. Everybody fucks up. I fuck up all the time.
I fuck up all the time.
But what I'm really fucking good at is getting back up on the horse as quickly as possible. I mean, I have literally fucked up on my diet, where I went to McDonald's and I had a Big Mac, and I took a bite of the Big Mac, and in that moment I realized, John, you're fucking up, and I spit the bite out and threw the Big Mac into the fucking trash can. See,
the guy making the Big Mac is like, damn, did I fuck it up that bad? Like, to an outside perspective, it looks like it was just like the grossest Big Mac ever.
But like most people would say, oh, I already bought it, or I already took a bite, so right, I might as well just eat the whole thing, and then afterwards I might as well get some chocolate cake or whatever it is. But it's like, no, as soon as you realize you're fucking up, in fact, there's this Turkish proverb that says, I forget exactly what it is. It's basically like, when you're going down, as soon as you know you're going down the wrong path, turn around.
Course correct, yeah.
Right. And it's like, that's like the most solid advice I can give you guys, is like, yeah, you're going to be excited and motivated, and you're like, yeah, I'm going to fucking do this now for real this time. I'm going to get my life together. But I guarantee you're going to fuck up. And when you do fuck up, don't beat yourself up. Don't punish yourself mentally. Punish yourself physically if you have to, but not mentally. Instead, give yourself grace mentally, but immediately turn around and get right back on the horse. Don't start the diet tomorrow. Don't, whatever it is, don't, just like realize that the path to success is going to involve a whole shitload of failures. And you just have to endure that process, because again, if you keep those huskies mushing, you'll eventually pull into gnome. So you have to keep going, and you have to just trust the process, and know that if you continue to grind it out, whatever it is, whether it be business, whether it be women, whether it be in your diet and at the gym, you will eventually get there.
Yeah, I think also a big part of it is developing successful or productive habits. I think habits are so powerful. Have you ever read the book Atomic Habits by James Clear?
Yeah. I've had James on my channel. He's a good
really?
guy.
Okay. Yeah. We'll talk offline about that. I would love to get on. But so basically just getting those habits. Like, I know, like, I fuck up. Obviously, everyone fucks up. But, like, I have some habits that I've just over years developed. Like, one of my habits is every day I sit down and I visualize. I visualize for 5 minutes the kind of life that I would like to have 5 years from now, right? And that kind of, reminds me what I want. I make goals every week. If I see an attractive girl, most of the time I'll talk to her. Mm-hmm. What else do I do? That's like, I go to the gym like 6 days a week, right? Like, doesn't matter if I feel like it, if I don't, if I'm sore, I'm not. unless I have like some severe injury, I'm going to go to the gym 6 days out of the week. That's just like a habit. So I think that, once you develop the habits, like it becomes a lot easier. I think the problem is a lot of guys don't get to that point. Like they feel motivated, they watch a podcast, they read a book, and they go out for like a week and they take action. I've seen this with so many of my friends. Right? They go out and they take action for like a week, and then the excitement dies off, and then they're just like, and they don't develop the habit, and then they stop. And then a month later, 2 months later, they restart again because they feel motivated again. I think that motivation definitely fades. Like I don't feel motivated all the time, but habits, they do stay.
Yeah, you have to. One of the most important skills I think to learn in life is to learn to work without motivation. That's so 100%. Key, because motivation comes and goes, and you can't manufacture it all the time. And so you just got to like set your goal, and one of the things you can do is to, along the same lines, is to fully commit. Like committing to things, because guys are like, I'm gonna try this, and like, no, you gotta commit, right? In both in business and in dating, right? So in business, guys tell me, well, I'll try this idea, or I'm going to try this business. I'm like, no, you have to say, I'm going to make this business work, right? It's the same thing, I'm sure this, like coaching guys, they go out and they're like, oh, I'm gonna try, and I'm like, no. You go out tonight, you're like, you're not going to try and pull, you're going to make it happen. Like you're like you have to have the mindset of, I'm going to figure out whatever obstacles I have to overcome. If I have to jump in the cab or whatever it is, I'm fucking doing it because I'm going to make this shit happen tonight. That's the mindset that you have to have. And so it's about committing. It's about fully committing to the thing. And when you commit to the action, then it's like burning the boats. You don't have any other choice. So you're going to plow forward because it has to happen. It must happen. And that's so key. And, so for example, let's say that you want to get in shape. You want to start running. Okay. Don't just say, hey, after this podcast, I'm going to start running. Instead, what I want you to do is I want you to, first of all, put it on your calendar for tomorrow that put a half an hour block where you're going to go research a marathon that you're going to train for. And then you're going to go research and hire a coach who's going to give you a training plan, and you're going to commit to that. Because if you do that, you see, now that's a level of commitment. Now you're going to get a training plan, and you're going to have to run, and you're going to have a date for a marathon that you're going to run, or whatever it is, a half marathon if you want to sign up for something like that. If you do that, you will succeed. Same thing. Let's say if you had a different goal, if you had a business goal, you're like, oh, I really want to start a YouTube channel. Well, fucking put it on your calendar right now. Pause the podcast, put it on your calendar for tomorrow. They're going to spend a half hour block planning out all the steps that you need to do to start your YouTube channel, and then put those steps on your fucking calendar so that you have to do them, right? That's what committing is, right? Trying, you're never going to succeed if you try. You have to commit.
And hold yourself accountable. I think that's a big thing. Like I hold myself very accountable. Like kind of what you mentioned, don't beat yourself up too much if you fail. But like if I don't get something done that I wanted to get done that day, or I'm slacking off, like I don't feel good about myself. Like when I go to sleep, like I just like, come on, like you're better than this almost. So I think also holding yourself accountable is key. I think that if you're doing the business thing, like for example, playing with fire, we didn't make any money. Well, we made like $1,000 a month, 4 people working in the company for like a year, right? Like we were whatever, we were not profitable for a long time. Like with businesses, it takes a lot of failure before you get the business off the ground. And, there's a lot of points, where I could have quit, because before I did PWF, I had a pretty cushy sales job where I was making like, 7, 8K a month consistently, right? So, I was like, well, I'm making way less money, but like, you got to kind of commit and just stay on and just realize that you are going to fail a lot initially. That's just part of the game, unfortunately. Let me slightly change gears a little bit. So I think you're probably one of the best people to ask this question, possibly. What are some of the big issues you see with the red pill / MGTOW community right now?
So the biggest thing, and again, I say this, you know this because we talked about this before, and it's like, I have a lot of friends in a lot of different places. I don't hate anyone. You know what I mean? What I do hate is bad philosophies, right? So, I'm friends with guys that are identifying the MGTOW. I'm friends with a lot of guys in the red pill. In fact, I get into drama because I try to avoid the drama, but because I'll be friends with anyone, right? Because if they have good content and good ideas, even if they don't, I still want to hear it because I want to know when I'm ignorant, because I'm ignorant about a lot of things. So I want to understand these things, and I feel like we should have discussion. So I kind of want to preface it by saying that. But the biggest problem that I see with a lot of the red pill guys, and again, like I said, a lot of these guys are my friends. I love you guys, but the biggest problem that I see is victim mindset,
Yes.
right? Is
100%.
hating on women, right? Like I get it. Like hypergamy, okay, I understand, and I understand female nature, and I understand divorce court and family court, and that the bad things that happen there, but it doesn't do you any good to like it does you. It's good that guys understand these things, that they have knowledge of this, but from a non-emotional standpoint, from a this is the facts and these are how things work, right? So the analogy I draw is it's like, let's say that you have a tiger in your backyard, okay, or in a cage in your backyard. You don't stick your arm in the cage, okay? You know what a tiger is capable of, and if you stick your arm in the cage and it gets bit off, you don't get angry at the tiger. You're like, what a fucking tiger! I can't believe this tiger bit my fucking arm off. Like, you know,
I'm gonna try putting my dick in there. Let's see what happens. Ah, fuck! You bit my dick off.
But you have that knowledge, right? So you don't get angry at the tiger for it's just like you don't get angry at female nature. Okay, it's not bad or good. It is what it is, right? And so I think a lot of like the red pill and kind of MGTOW, the problem I have is that it's a very like angry, bitter mindset, and it's like hating on women, and especially hating on other men. It's like calling guys cucks and simps and all this stuff. I get it. I totally get it, and I understand pussy behavior. Believe me, I'm against that. But I rather, like, my strategy is to teach guys to become top 5% man. I'd rather like help guys and lift them up and discourage the bad behavior instead of saying like this, women are bad or these guys are simps or cucks. Let's call out the behavior that is bad, or that we need to be aware of, and let's talk about it and talk about why it's bad. So an uplifting message is going to yield a lot more results than a discouraging message, right? It's like, and that's the big problem I have. And then the factionalization, right? It's like, oh, if you're part of this group or you're not part of the, fuck that. Like, if you want to be a man, like truly going your own way, every man should be going his own way, by the way, right? This is like that's what it means to be a man. That's like the definition of masculinity, is going your own way. So to have an acronym that you attach to your name, it's superfluous, right? If you're actually going your own way, then you don't need to have an acronym that you attach to your name. Okay. So going your own way means that you are on your own fucking team and you don't care what other people think. So if you have to join some boys club, okay. And again, I'm not trying to knock guys that have their clubs. It's fine. I'm friends with guys in multiple clubs. It's fine. But I'm just saying, for me and to really be a man, you have to really question, if you're going to join some club and you're going to let that club dictate your actions and who you can talk to and who you're going to have friends with, I can't really say you're going your own way. You're not really acting like a man. And that's the problem that I have with a lot of it. Now, again, it's not all the red pill content creators. It's not everything that they say. It's not all the MGTOW guys, because there's MGTOW guys that I feel like say some good stuff as well. It's just, that's the things that I don't like about those kind of movements, if that makes sense.
I think you should never, as a man, tie your identity to any kind of group. Like, to make an analogy, like I see this, like, okay, like most of my life I voted, I've been more liberal on issues, right? But like in the last 5-10 years, the Democrats have literally lost their mind when it comes to certain things, like the SJW thing, the deplatforming. And like, even though, I have always been more on the left, like I don't identify with that shit. I'm like, no, actually the conservatives are right about this. Like, you should not fucking get super butthurt when someone uses a microaggression, and fucking let it ruin the rest of your year. But like, I've seen this like with, for example, my friends who are on the left, like they're like, well, like 5 years ago they would have agreed with me, but now because their brand has moved in that direction, they have to agree with it, right? But like, that's not really thinking your own way. And it's the same thing with the pickup community. Like, oh, I'm red pill, and the red pill, train of thought right now is this, so I have to, go with this, right? Like, oh, fuck that. Like, dude, like, you don't have, like, even if you're a big fan of me, like, you don't have to agree with everything. Like, I think I make articulate points, and, my shit is based on like experience and results, but I'm sure there's some things that I'm overlooking, right? But you don't have to. If you disagree, like, you can enjoy my content, but disagree with like 20% of it, and that's okay. Like, you don't have to be 100% into any team. And I think that's like, the dumb thing I see. Like, you make a video that's like, makes articulate points, like soy boy, cuck. Like, yo, get the fuck out of here with that shit. Like, come on. Like, so.
And one other thing I'll say about that is it's interesting too. Again, my take. I did this video called "Why Alpha Males Should Fall in Love," and people didn't like that so much but the thing is, like, the other thing that I think a lot of the red pill and kind of MGTOW communities is failing to recognize, for the most part, is that there's nothing wrong with like falling in love, like in the sense that, but what there is wrong with is attachment. So if you can be non-attached, you can be, because what happened to the Casanovas, what happened to the Don Juans, right? Like we've become these these archetypes of this alpha male pump and dump, and and that's not like we're the seducers, right? We're the guys that are actually seducers of women that that fall in love for the night. You know what I'm saying? Like, again, I'm not saying that you necessarily have to fall into that archetype, but I'm saying that like there's a missing part of humanity. It's almost like I feel like a lot of the MGTOW and red pill kind of content is stripping humanity away from it. And it's like, yeah, there's
a form of ego protection. Yeah,
exactly. Because I understand the blue pill philosophy and the whole fairy tale thing, but there's also, and again, people are going to say this is purple pill. I don't really care how you label it, but
shit, like stupid fucking labels, fucking magenta pill, orange pill. Like, get the fuck out of here. Yeah.
But there's a part of us, of all men that wants to like be in a meaningful relationship, to have a deeper connection with women.
And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, part of me wants that too. Like, I've been in meaningful relationships and where I was exclusive, and I have no regrets about that. Like, and I have been in love, not often, but there's been once or twice, and I don't regret that, like, at all.
Yeah. So
that's masculine.
Exactly. And I think that's just so important. I feel like that message isn't getting out there because a lot of guys are like, they're kind of like, they're going from, okay, blue pill means that I have this fantasy of falling in love and, this girl and whatever, and put her on a pedestal. And so if I'm rejecting the red pill, or the blue pill, then I have to go totally red pill, where I'm like, yeah, there's no such thing as love. Women will always screw you over. She's not yours. It's just your turn. I hate that phrase and all of this. And it's like, no, what you need to do is to become a strong enough man to face reality, to understand that women do certain things and they behave in a certain way, and hypergamy is real.
It's real.
But then be tough enough to be non-attached. That's where the Stoic philosophy comes in, to say that, look, you know what, I'm gonna use the knowledge and the wisdom that I have, okay, understand the nature of women and the nature of intersexual dynamics, and I'm going to live my life how I want to. And you know what, if situations occur in which case I get burned, I'm okay with that. I'm okay with that because I'm not going to get butthurt about it. I'm not going to get upset. That's just part of life and part of playing the game. Obviously I'm not going to put myself into bad situations, but I'm also not going to fear life. Like so many guys, they're like, oh, what if I get me too'd? And what if you're going to go out and fear life, then instead live your life as wise as you can with the knowledge that you have, understanding reality as clearly as possible, and then accept whatever consequences may come. Be detached from the outcome of things. If you're detached from the outcome of things and you're like, hey, you know what? Hey, if this girl cheats on me, that's fine. Not a big deal. I'll just leave and find another girl. It's not a big deal. I'm not going to get all butthurt. I'm not going to do so many things to prevent that from happening. Right. Instead, you know what I'm saying? So that's, I think, where there's a big missing part is like,
it's living your life in defense mode instead of offense mode, like constantly on defense. And also, I think as a man, you should never fall victim to groupthink. Like, there's a lot of groupthink in any community. In the vegan community, there's a lot of groupthink. In politics, in PUA community, there's a lot of groupthink. And I've done videos where I talk about it. These are the things that the pickup community, on average, gets wrong, right? Like, sorry, like, I know this is what you believe for 5 years, but it's not based on any kind of fact. And obviously red pill community as well. There's a lot of groupthink there. And, like, I have personal experience, I would post some of my content that I thought was relevant in the Reddit red pill community. And then fucking like call me a soy boy virgin. Like, yo, get the fuck out of here. Like, not to brag, but I probably fuck more girls than all of you guys. Like, that's again, not bragging, but that's like a fact. Like, you probably haven't been laid in like 6 months. Like, maybe watch my video and then make an argument whether you agree with it or not based on merit, rather than the fact that this guy's advocating guys go on Tinder
and that's what we need to do more of, just like in the men's community here. Like on it's just let's have some discussions. Maybe we don't even agree, but we just have these discussions and we attack the ideas and stop calling people person. Because the soy cuck, simp language, sure, it's funny for a time, but it doesn't actually, like, it doesn't progress the narrative. Like we're already in the minority. I mean, to the rest of the world, to the real world, we're all the fucking same. We're just misogynistic assholes. Like all of us, we're all grouped into it. It doesn't matter if you're fucking incel or black pill or MGTOW or red pill or whatever it is. You're just a fucking misogynistic, whatever. That's how the world views us. So like for us to be fighting amongst each other and calling each other simps and cucks, it's just ridiculous to me. It's like, I disagree with a lot of guys. That's fine, but I'm not going to like get fucking butthurt about it. Let's discuss the ideas. Okay, you got a problem with my idea? That's fine. Let's discuss it as men instead of this drama queen shit. So
yeah, I think there's a lot of value in hashing out ideas, like like sitting down with someone who disagrees with you and like talking about it. Unfortunately, what I've seen, like I can tell you might be like the second red. I don't even really consider you red pill, but whatever. Let's say red pill coach that's come on my channel, right? But a lot of them just don't want to come on, and that's again because they know that I disagree with them. Like I'm not gonna make any names. There's one guy who I was talking to, pretty big red pill guy, and he sent me a copy of his book to review, and I was like, yeah, man, I went through your book, and we disagree on some things, but that's awesome. Let's discuss it.
Yeah.
Like you just did not want to hear that. So I think a lot of it is just like just being afraid of ideas, which is again it's like so silly and so masculine. I think another issue that I've personally observed in the red pill community is lumping all girls in the same category. So and I think this is such bad logic because like we can all agree, like even the super black pill guys that can agree. There's some guys that are great, like your best friends that you would trust with your life, right? And there's some guys you wouldn't even trust with $2, right? Because they'll fuck you over. Like so with men, we have like every human being has some level of inherent selfishness, but there's some people that are way more selfish than others, right? And so you wouldn't let every guy into your life. You'd become friends with guys who are close. But like with women, for some reason, the logic goes out the window. All women are the same. They're all going to fuck you over.
Yeah.
Like there's some great fucking women out there, even in the West. I personally dated them, and there's some horrible women out there. And to say that all Western women are this and that, and all Eastern women is where you have to go is just purely silly. Like it's just intellectually dishonest.
Well, and I'll tell you something. Another truth that a lot of guys in the red pill community do not like when I say this, which is that basically in a relationship, a large degree of a woman's behavior is influenced by you, who you are as a man. Because I have a TikTok that exploded that talks about this, where basically I was saying that like you take a woman and you put her in a relationship with a guy that's a pussy and is lets her walk all over him, and she's going to treat him like shit. She's going to walk all over him. She's going to cheat on him. She's going to do all these things. She's going to emotionally manipulate him and all these things. But you take that same exact girl and you put her in a relationship with a really masculine man who's dominant, who knows his value, who won't take shit. And she's going to treat him like a fucking king. She's going to serve him, kiss his feet, do everything that she can for him, because and it's not her, it's the guy. And every time I say this, guy's like, oh, well, you're just blaming the victim. You're just excusing women's behavior. And I'm like, no, there's a reason why you're a man. Like if you want to call yourself a man, it's not a double standard. You have different responsibilities and a different role than women, and women for the most part are followers. They're not leaders. And so you as a man, you lead. And in fact, that's what we talk about in game all the time, is like leading the interaction, right? And when you lead, women follow, and they're gonna follow, they're gonna respond. Like guys, like in order to be good at game, what do? You be non-reactive. But why? Because women are reactive. It's a feminine trait. And so women are mostly going to react off of how you frame yourself as a man. And so many guys, again, I don't mean to like, I don't mean to be heartless in the stories that a lot of MGTOW guys have of being divorced, raped, and having all this shit happen to them. I understand that's a painful thing, and I have empathy for it. But at the same time, for a lot of you guys that have gone through that, you have to really examine in your heart of hearts, is it your fault to a large degree because of how you act in that relationship? And now, again, you didn't ask to be a blue-pilled whatever guy getting into the marriage. You didn't know, but now you know, and now maybe you can look back and you could say, well, if I wasn't such a blue-pilled guy, if I was more assertive and dominant as a man and understood my masculinity and understood female nature better, then perhaps it wouldn't have gone down that way and she wouldn't have done those things. Again, when I say this, guys lose their shit and they're like, oh, I can't believe you're blaming men. But this is, it's a hard truth, but it really is a truth of reality. So,
and you're not even blaming men, just pointing out the way things are. Like, is it blaming the earth, the fact that there's gravity? Like, you know what I mean? Like, so I've personally, of course, seen that myself. And I think that one exception to what you said is if the woman has a very high level of self-awareness, in which case she'll realize that she's being a bitch. But that's literally less than 0.1% of people in general. Like, people have very low self-awareness unless they're into self-development or there's a reason for them to be. So the vast majority of women, like, yeah, she may be a total bitch to you. She might be super fucking sweet and nice with me. And really, it's just, she's not even aware. She's not doing this on purpose, subconscious programming. And then, so your behavior can definitely, and I think a big part that guys forget is screening. Like, like, I'll fuck any chick who's really hot and makes it easy for me. But like, when it comes to dating and letting into my life, like, the chick has to be loyal. Like, I screen really aggressively, based on personality when it comes to stuff like that. And I think that, again, like, that's because I look at people as people. It's like, almost, I would say, like, the analogy, I kind of hate bringing this up, but almost like racism. Like, when you're like, oh, every black guy is this, right? No, like, people are people, right? But if you go into this mindset that a group of people is going to be like this, you're generally going to attract those people. And again, it's just like, I think, intellectually dishonest. So yeah, man, I do think it's important to, kind of keep calling this stuff out and attack the idea rather than the person, because I think that's, kind of really common, unfortunately. And I think we should have more of these debates. Like, I want to have guys on this channel who disagree with me. Like, I want to have AMS on. Like, me and him disagree, but that's okay. We can hash this out. There's a lot of guys who I disagree with, but that's okay.
I'd really like to put together a forum where we could have these kind of discussions and have just a lot of different, I know like some of the guys that I've had on my channel and that I will have on my channel, it's going to piss off a lot of people that are, quote, my friends. Well, we'll see, how much my friends they actually are, but I kind of want to, like, open up the door to say, like, look, let's have these discussions and let's be respectful and because this is how we're advanced. I mean, back in the day, like, going back to the way where everything originates. So surprise, MGTOW guys, red pill guys, it all came from PUA. That's everything came from PUA. That's where it was. But
circa 2001 back in the day.
But back in those days, it was like everything was like on the alt fast seduction news groups and then on the forums, and like there's like these healthy debates where that's what advanced the level of game where like red pill and MGTOW and all these other offshoots came from, was understanding. That's how we figured it out as men, was hashing these things out and figuring it out. And so I'd really like to have that forum where we have these kind of discussions. But I mean, hopefully in the future we can
100%. I mean, maybe we should at one point, we can discuss this offline, but do a panel, like, like 7 or 8 guys, like, who are respected, but they're like disagree on some shit, and just hash the shit out. I did a few on Afi's channel. During one panel, me and this red pill coach really got into it. I guess he just did not like what I had to say, but yeah, that's all good. It's good discourse. All right, let's jump into some questions. I mean, I feel like I could kind of rant on about this forever, but they're starting to pile up. What's up, Alex John? I just want to get that out there. Yo, Alex, did you watch Fresh and Fit podcast? What do you think about it? I saw a comment in the Fillion video. Oh, yeah. Fresh and Fit podcast, I mean, those guys are hustling. I'll give them that. I like their hustle. I would probably disagree with like 30 to 50% of the stuff they say, maybe. But they hustle. They put out entertainment. I mean, I know that both of them personally. The only sad thing is they, for some reason, refuse to have me on because they see me as like competition or something like that, or I don't fucking know. I mean, it's kind of lame because I would love to, just have them on my show, go on their show. We literally live down the street from each other. Like, they literally live like 2 minutes from where I live. So it's pretty silly. I remember Byron back in the day. He used to be like a big PWF fan. Like, he was like, yo, man, I love your content. But like, now apparently too cool for school, but that's okay. I want them to succeed, I guess.
Yeah, I'll talk to them. I'll see, because I know those guys. They're good guys. They're definitely hustling.
Yeah, they're hustling. I mean, their channel has grown so fast. Like, it's fucking crazy.
Yeah, it's well deserved because they're putting in the work.
They're putting out like 2-3 videos a day. That's like insane. I was like looking at that. I was like, damn, I don't think I could put out, like, I work like crazy, but I don't think I could put out that much content, especially have it edited.
But yeah, I'll talk to them. But yeah, they did, when they flew me out to Miami, they took care of me and really made me feel welcome. So
nice. Okay. When were you here? We missed the
like a couple of weeks ago. Yeah.
Oh shit. Hit me up next time you're in Miami.
Definitely.
Hi, Alex John. Join the call. Much love. Have a good evening, brothers. All right. Y'all both are the best. Shout out. Keep putting out love content. I love the love.
Yep.
And yeah, I mean, would you say even like with some of your controversial Jordan Peterson videos, like in general, it's probably mostly love that you get, right? Like it's mostly people who love your shit and you've changed their life. Like I'm assuming that's the case, right?
Yeah. I mean, obviously on that video, there's a lot of negative in the comments, but in general, I get a lot of emails from guys, thanking me. It's just crazy. Like when because some people will email me and it's like they've been following since they're like, 15 or 16, and like, and they have bought rental properties and are like financially independent now, and they're like, have completely changed their life around. I'm like, shit, that's just crazy to think that like I started that chain of events in their life. So yeah, it's cool. And there's, I definitely enjoy the positivity. I try to keep everything. I mean, it's
Yeah,
like
yeah. Me as well, generally, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a great feeling when you change someone's life. Like I've had, people like, I was a virgin, I had given up, I thought I was done, and then, now I'm had sex with 2 girls, and I feel so much happier. Like,
yeah,
it was a point where I was getting at one point like maybe one virgin a week that like lost his virginity due to my content. I kept putting out like screenshots, so it just became too repetitive. I was like, all right, like I beat this fucking horse to death. But yeah. Okay, so why does a gender war matter so much to the manosphere? Is it mostly for clicks and views?
I think that's true. I think a lot of it is, unfortunately, I think as much as I like have these big aspirations for us in the manosphere, like having discussions and really like, I think a lot of creators come from a different, and it's weird. Like I try to think like, where would I be? Like I'm financially independent. So when I create the content, like I like to make money, of course, and Bulldog Mindset is a business. So I'm not going to say that it's like completely altruistic, but my primary like motivation in what I do and what I say is because I believe that it's true and it will help guys, not because I'm going to do the thing that's going to get the most money or the most clicks. I am, of course, trying to find content that does both, but I unfortunately, a lot of guys in this space, I think they're coming from a space of like, this is my shot and I need to make money. And this is like so they're kind of have that bias where they're like, well, I could talk about something that I really believe in, or I can talk about how women suck again. And then that's going to get a lot of clicks, because that kind of content, a lot of guys that have the victim mindset, they're like, yeah, like thumbs up, comment, yeah, that, and they like that kind of content because it makes them feel better about themselves. So I think that is a lot of what fuels this, is that it's the content that gets the most clicks and the most interaction. So
yeah, I think what you said is huge. There's like a fine balance here, and unfortunately, with the pickup community, the same thing. Those guys are just trying to fucking like make as much, and it's sad because you can, PWF is a successful business. Like you can make a good amount of money while still providing legitimate value, but you can make even more money if you're like kind of like a fucking con artist. Like, like on my sales page, I could promise that every person who buys my product fucks 10 girls a month, right? And there are some guys who do that. But like, I do truly believe that my product is awesome. It helps guys. But like, I hype myself up, but I don't like make crazy promises. I like some of the promises I see, like never get rejected again. Like, there's no fucking product, no boot camp that will ever make it so you can never get rejected again. So I think it's kind of a shame. And I think it's important for consumers to be able to kind of like recognize real is real. Like, like I can tell, like I consider myself a real guy, and I can tell you're real just from talking to you for an hour. So I think it's important for viewers to have that skill. Also recognize real from real, like and I think some argument, like rarely do I see this, but some guys do say like, well, it's mostly like not in the pickup community. It's mostly when I post to other forums, like, oh, he has a product, so all he cares about is making money. Like you can do both. You can tell the truth and make money. Like they're not mutually exclusive.
Exactly. Yep.
Sup, guys? Been dealing with a lot of flakes recently. Any advice on what text to send back when the girl cancels a few hours before the date? Does the legitimacy of her excuse impact what to send to? So, go start first. I have my own opinion on this, but I want to hear what you have to say.
So my general approach is to just say the truth of what you actually think about it, right? So a real good thing to say is to just say, I hate when people flake on me, and then let her respond to that. Or just, I don't appreciate when people waste my time. That's a more polite way to put it, which is totally legitimate. As long as you're not like making excuses for it and saying, oh, that's okay. Because that's not really okay. That's not honest. Like you want to be genuine and truthful. Like part of being a masculine man that she will see and having that frame is being honest about what you think about a thing. So if she does something that you disapprove of, then tell her. You don't have to be a jerk about it. Don't be an asshole. Don't show that you're an emotional bitch about it. Instead, don't be butthurt. Just be like, hey, look, I really don't like when people waste my time. I don't like when people flake. You said you're going to be here at this time. I expect that when someone tells me that they're going to be there, that they're going to be there. Right now, if she comes back and she's like, you say that, and then she's like, hey, really, it really is, I really did want to meet you. How about if we do like next Thursday at 7, right? Then that's totally cool. Like, don't delete her number and get all pissed off and say, well, she flakes once. No, because people do have legitimate excuses. But if she's not trying to set up, now the ball should be in her court, right? You told her what it was unacceptable behavior. Okay, that you're disappointed in her behavior. You didn't do it in a butthurt way. And now if she wants to make a new date with you, great. If she doesn't, then she's done. Then you don't need to talk to her anymore. She's shown you how much she values you, and you don't need to try and chase and win her back at that point. And many times I think, you'll find when you tell a girl, hey, I don't like when people flake on me, or, I don't like when people waste my time. A lot of times she'll come back and she'll be like, you know what, actually I can make it, or what, and because she's never had a guy actually say that. Most of the time when girls do this, guys are like, oh, that's okay, or how about we try another date, or all this stuff, and they let her off the hook. You could also say, hey, if you're going to let her off the hook, at least do it by saying, hey, okay, fine, but you owe me a drink next time, or you owe me a drink when we meet up, when we reschedule, whatever it is. This way you're at least showing that you have some kind of standards, and that you just don't take people flaking on you without responding at all. So that's my take on it. What do you think, Alex?
I think you and I slightly agree and slightly disagree on this topic. So for me, it's very contextual. I look at, like, when a girl says, hey, I'm sorry, I feel like I might have COVID, or I was exposed, or like, hey, I had a horrible day at work, can we please reschedule? That's going to merit a totally different response than, hey, sorry, I can't make it. Like, completely different response. Is this the first time she's done this, or is this the third time, right? So for me, it's very contextual. Now, I think one thing I disagree with, I don't think you've ever said this, but I saw this actually, speaking of Fresh and Fit, one of the things they say is, like, if a girl flakes, it means that she's found who she thinks is a better guy, she's getting fucked by someone else. That's just not factually true. The majority of the time, she's either nervous, she's just watching Gossip Girl, she's fucking went out with her friends. Like, she's not getting fucked by another guy. Like, that does happen, but it's not the majority of the time. It's the minority of the time. And sometimes, like, people do have legitimate excuses. It does happen. Like, I try to make all my commitments, but sometimes I do need to reschedule. Like, like, people have legitimate reasons. So I think it's good to have some level of social intuition to be able to discern. And I think kind of what you said is, like, is she trying to say, hey, I'm really sorry, I can't make it tonight, but can we do tomorrow night? Or is she just saying, hey, I'm sorry, I can't make it? Like, is she trying to make plans or not? I think that's a big indicator. How long is her message? Is she doing it the morning of? Is she doing like 10 minutes beforehand? So I think your response should be very contextual. Now, generally speaking, the first time a girl flakes on me, I will just say something like breaking my heart, right? I'm not, oh, okay, it's okay, we can hang out another night. I'm not super eager, but I'm not also like calling it out right away. I'm just going with a mild takeaway. And I think a big part of that is I don't like getting flaked on, obviously. Like, no one likes it. But at this point, I'm just very detached from that. Like, I expect that women in 2021 quite often will flake. And some of those girls might be really cool girls once they get to know me and I get to know them. But like, initially, like, they don't know me. They don't really know who I am. They have a lot of other guys, like, and I don't like it, but I'm okay with it. I don't give a shit. So to me, it's just like, okay, like, I don't feel the need to, like, I remember when I was younger, I felt the need to kind of prove myself to everyone. So like, but now, like, I'm cool with just like letting something, because my goal is to, if I'm talking to a girl, to fuck the girl, right? Or whatever, maybe something more, right? And so I'm like, yeah, that's my goal. I don't really care. I don't need to prove to myself, to her, or something like that. Now, if the girl does this 2 or 3 times, I will call it out. So powerful text I use is, I genuinely didn't take you for the flaky type. And the reason I really like this text is it's direct. It addresses that, but it also says, I didn't think you were flaky. And girls, when they get texts like that, they're like, no, I'm not the flaky type, because no girl wants to be the flaky type. So she's like, oh shit, like, I don't want to be in this category. How do I prove to this guy that I'm not in this category? Or another text I might send, like, if I try to make plans with a girl and she's being difficult time and time again, I'll say, look, if you're not into this, just let me know and I can stop trying. And that text is also very powerful, because like, wow, like, this guy's willing to walk away from me. but he's not butthurt. So there's like kind of two extremes. The one extreme is guys get butthurt, they get super aggressive, which is bad game. But the other game is they're just let the girl walk all over them. Like, oh, it's okay. What can you do? What can you do? Right. And if you take that middle path, like you're going to be in the 1%.
Yeah, I think that's good. Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And you know, again, I think there's multiple approaches that can be successful. You know, because I wouldn't disagree. I think your approaches would work perfectly fine. One thing I could add to it too is to say that one thing that's good to do is to be proactive in preventing the flakes. So one thing I advise a lot of the guys that I coach is I say, look, the day of the date, don't wait and then hope that she's going to be there at 7. Or, you know what I mean? Instead, at like 2 in the afternoon or something, confirm, but don't confirm by saying, hey, are we still on for tonight? Because that's kind of like, and you also give her an out. Instead, what I like to say is to have guys say, hey, you know, at my place, it could be a little bit tough to find parking. Are you taking an Uber or driving? Right. So you're assuming that she's going to be there. Like whatever you do, or just say, hey, I was going to grab some wine. Do you prefer red or white? Right. Ask that kind of question so that, you know, she when she responds, you'll know, right? If she's going to flake on you, you're going to find out, because then she'll be like, oh, actually, blah, blah, blah. And then, so you're not finding out the last minute. And then it's also like, it's a lot stronger than coming across and saying, hey, are we still on for tonight? Because I feel like hey, are we still on for tonight? It's sort of like you're kind of doubting that she's actually going to show up in the first place. It's kind of presenting a little bit weak. And then you're giving her a very easy out, because she could just say, no, you know, whereas if you say, hey, what kind of wine do you like, red or white? Or, you know, are you driving? Are you Ubering over? Or, you know, or even if you just say, hey, just so you know, I've got something 5 minutes before, so I might just be like a couple minutes late. Is that okay? Anything like that you can confirm it without asking the question, are you going to be there? That's usually the advice I give. And that reduces the flake rate by a huge degree.
Yeah, I see your point. I think there's pros and cons to either just being, hey, like the text I commonly use is day of the date. Like I'll send her a meme, or I'll say like, hola, Linda. I want to get the conversation going. I want to get her responding. Then after a little bit of back and forth, I'll say, hey, still good for tonight. I think there's pros and cons to doing it that way. Like another common strategy I'll do is I'll say, hey, how's your day going? She'll be like, good. How's yours? I'm like, good. Just finished a big workout, looking nice and fit for our date. So that's kind of going with what you said. But I think the key is confirming. Because what happens, and I think a lot of guys are not aware of this, if you don't confirm, the girl thinks you're going to flake on her. And what she's going to do, I've seen this time and time again, is she's going to preemptively flake on you to defend her ego. So she's like, oh, shit, this guy's going to flake on me. I better make plans with my girlfriends. And then 7 o'clock, you text her like, hey, where are you? She's like, oh, I didn't think we were still on. Or she just doesn't respond. Yeah. It's like, oh, shit, this guy didn't flake on me. Awkward situation. Like one thing you have to know about women is most of them really want to avoid any kind of confrontation, awkwardness, right? And so that's quite often why you don't get a text back, because most girls are not going to be like, hey, you know, I thought that you were going to flake on me, so I decided to preemptively flake. Like that's not going to happen. Like chicks, so they're going to take the path of least resistance. And so I think that's, confirming is huge. You know, you have to. And like, if you set a date a week ahead of time, like you should probably talk to her in between, like a little bit, go crazy. But like you have to, as I call it, keep the lead warm.
Yeah. And don't set, I mean, I usually advise not to set a date a week ahead of time, like 3-4 days. That's a better window, because she'll forget about you and who you are in a week, unless you had a really good interaction before then, you know, just a couple of days ahead of time. And make it as simple as possible. I like your approach though too. That I think that will work really good. So
yeah, like one of the big things I teach is simplicity. Like I always try to, like the analogy I always use is Google. You know, there was like at a time there was a bunch of search engines, right? They're all competing. Google clearly won that war, and I think a big part of that is they were the simplest.
Yep, exactly.
Okay. How do you come back from a girl ghosting you after you hung out with her once and nothing happened? So my opinion is, if you hung out, nothing happened, she's ghosting you, she's not into you, and there's nothing you could do to come back from that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say don't be like butthurt and delete the number. Like just, you know, you could put her in your file of contact in 1 month and send a meme or something. You know what I mean? It's like you might as well have like a list of these girls that every month or so you send it, because it could be also a lot of times, what if she just got back with her ex-boyfriend, or she was still, you know what I mean? And then you know, so I don't know. I just don't like assume that that you're completely done, but also don't pursue at that point. Like there's no need to like actively pursue. But yeah, coming back from ghosting, there's not a lot you can do except to, you know, unless you want to send a text that say, "Oh I just got in a car accident."
I'm in the hospital. I'm dying. I'm actually a multi-billionaire, and you're in my will. Yeah, like something crazy. Yeah, I mean, I think the context of why she like like you went on a date with a girl, right? So at this point, she knows your personality. Nothing happened on the date. Like I think you need to examine why nothing happened on the date, and then she's ghosting you. Like it's done. Vast majority of the time. Versus if let's say it's a chick who you started talking to and you had a really good back and forth and maybe you were trying to set up plans and then she goes. Like in those situations, you can come back sometimes. Or let's say it's a girl you've hung out with a few times, you guys have banged, you know, maybe you banged 3 or 4 times and then she disappears. So it's also a situation where you can come up from. But like, I think you have to look at the context a lot.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I like that. I like that you always look at the context of things. I think that's so important.
100%. Bulldog mindset is cool. James Tusk is very good at that with his students. So good news. James Tusk is coming on next Sunday. I did one for his channel and he's coming on my channel. So it's going to be a good time. All right. Okay. Interesting. How do you bring up that you want a girl to be loyal to you while you date around? Basically a one-way monogamous relationship. Okay. I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on this.
You know, I would say that you don't bring this up, you know, if you're the kind of guy like, so psychology, female psychology and male psychology is different. Women want to be that girl. They want to be owned by a guy, right? In fact, one of the most sexual things that you can say to a girl that you're fucking is you're mine, or that's my, you know,
that's my pussy.
Exactly. That really gets girls fired up. Whereas if a girl said that to you, you'd be like, okay, yeah, like it's not going to matter, right? But it's a difference in the psychology. And so if you bring it up, it's different, because if you're like, oh, I want you to just be mine, like that's a needy type of way, right? Instead, you just do your thing. You don't bring it up. If you're the best guy that she can get, if you're and also if you're giving her what she needs, she's going to not want a different guy in like if that's the kind of girl that you want. But if you're trying to force it in any way, it's going to be controlling instead of dominating. Like domination and control are two different things. Control comes from a lack of power. Domination comes from power. And the only way that you can dominate is through submission, right? So the dominator is not actually in control, it's the submitter. So by the act of submission is what gives you dominance over a girl. And so you have to have her submit. So you trying to bring it up and trying to force it is going to be controlling, which is going to be needy, which is going to produce the opposite result. Instead, you just do your thing, and then by default, women are going to want to be more monogamous than men are, and hopefully she's going to, you know, choose that she wants to only be with you, and that will happen. You know, it's not going to happen every time, but that's the best way that I can come up with.
I think that's a key distinction, and I think that as a side note, somewhat of a side note, like saying like that fucking pussy is mine. Like I do that shit all the time, but I almost forgot that I do that, right? But like, yeah, like that's key. And women fucking love that. Like when you say, no one fucks that tight little pussy but me. Like, you know, it's my fucking pussy. Whose pussy is this? It's daddy's pussy. Like that shit turns girls on like crazy. But yeah, like outside of bed, if you're like, no one fucks this pussy but me, the girl's like, what the fuck are you talking about? Yeah. Don't you have a pickup channel? In my opinion, I think that one-way monogamous relationships are possible in the short term, but they're not possible in the long term. I think that they might be possible for a year, for 2 years, but eventually the girl's like, okay, like this is not fair. Like he gets to fuck other girls, I don't get to. There's some exceptions to this, but I think for the most part, open relationships are not successful long term, and one-way monogamous relationships are not. I think that this is kind of what me and J-Mov actually always talk about this, because he likes to get girlfriends, right? So basically, J-Mov likes the intimacy of being in a relationship, but he also likes to fuck other girls, right? Like most men, honestly, that's like very common. But so what he tends to do is tends to get quite a few girlfriends, but then the girlfriends are like, I mean, I think right now he actually has a good thing going. But anyway, so like I kind of differ with him on that. Like I like to have fuck buddies, or I like to be in like a relationship. Like I don't really like the in between so much.
Okay. Yeah, I think it can work in the long term, like the one-way monogamous, but it's takes really, like, you really got to be the guy, like, you know what I mean? Like if you're really high status in the girl's eyes, and again, everything that a girl will do and allow you to do and the way that she treats you is completely dependent on how she sees you, right? If she sees you at or above her level, or like below her level or at her level, she's going to treat you completely differently than if she sees you as, you know, as a super high status guy that's way above her. She's going to let you do anything you want. She's going to be completely loyal to you. You know, she's going to, so it's all about how she views you. And that's, you know, that's why, even if, you know, the guys that say, oh, game doesn't work, or you don't need game, you just need to be a Chad. Sure, that's fine. But there's a lot of movie stars and guys that, you know, that a lot of red pill guys say, oh, you know, Johnny Depp and all this. And it's like, no, but if they had game, it would be a totally different story. Because if you have game in the relationship, then the girl is always going to see you as above her. Just like, you know, look at the old, what was that show, the black with the Patrick, you know, the fat guy, Black Phillip show, right? You should watch or listen to the episodes if you haven't. But anyway, he's this big black fat comedian that had all these chicks, and he would talk about all the time about how women only want men that are better than them. And that's really true. You have to be better than her.
I think also a big part of it, the key to a relationship, is the woman should really respect you. Like the woman should have a high, like anytime I see that the woman doesn't respect the guy, I know that relationship is doomed. Like, you know, like it's kind of like popular at sitcoms, like the woman's like, oh yeah, my husband at home. But like, that is a fucking dead relationship. Like the woman has to think you're the shit, you're awesome. Like you should be able to have fun, and I have no problem. Like, you know, like a girl will playfully make fun of me, I'll make fun of her. Like, I'm not saying it has to be like this ego thing, but like deep down inside, she should think you're a really, really solid human being. Like she should respect you. And if she doesn't respect you, that's not going to go anywhere. Like,
and you get what you accept, right? It's like, that's why it's like, you know, you have to not tolerate but you know, some of the behavior that, because girls will shit test you and they'll see, and then, you know, your most powerful weapon in any interaction is
to walk away.
Yeah, exactly. Your feet.
Yeah, I think that if a woman doesn't, if you don't have the willingness to walk away, you're playing with, like, you're entering a gunfight with a knife. Like, it's, you know what I mean? It's like, you have to have that for the woman to respect you. Like, she needs to know, you know what? If I fuck up, I can lose this guy.
Yep.
Versus, like, I have him for life. I can do whatever the fuck I want. In that case, the only way it will work is if the woman has an extremely high level of self-awareness and she is super altruistic, which is 0.001%. What type of person would be better with online game versus in real life game, and vice versa? Interesting question.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that. Well, I mean, online game, you is looks, right? If you're a really good looking guy, you're going to kill it in online game. That's just how it is, right? But really, a lot of it is the photos, and you know, if you have naturally good looks, and then you have a really good photographer and good photos, and you've used Photo Feeler to rate the photos, and you're able to get like photos that are like, most of your profile photos are 9.9. Yeah, you're going to kill it in online game, because you're going to get, you know, basically an online game. My experience is that 80% of women are looking for the top, you know, 5% of guys. And so if you're in that category, you're gonna kill it. You're gonna be like, why should I even go out anywhere? But you will miss out on the fun of the kill, because there is fun to go out there and kill your own meat. I mean, it's one thing to get it from the supermarket, you know what I mean? Like, just delivered to your door, and you're like, okay, well, I'll just unwrap this thing and eat it. Or
so for the one or two feminists who are watching this podcast, we're not actually advocating killing anybody.
Yeah.
Making an analogy. It's a joke.
We're hunters. Men are hunters. Okay, they want to hunt. They want to kill. All right, they want to, you know, they want to go out and conquer. But you should have some in real life game skills as well. Anyway, even if you're a good looking guy. But obviously, if you're not good looking in real life, you're going to do way better than online. Like, don't let the black pill guys that are like, oh, we did the experiment and only the Chads ever get girls, and this is why looks are the only thing that matters. That's bullshit, because they're just using Tinder. And in that realm, when you have a two-dimensional view of a person, you're going to rate them by those 2 dimensions. That's it. Okay. But in life, you have a 3-dimensional, multi-dimensional person, and game is going to have a lot more of an effect there. In fact, there's a real good scene from this movie called Grown Ups. if you've seen like there's
I've
this
heard of it. It's with David Spade and Kevin James, right?
yeah, there's
Yeah.
this scene where this really buff, ripped dude, good looking dude is getting out of the pool, and all the girls are standing there and they're like calling him over. He's walking over towards them, right? And he goes up to him and he's like, "Oh, hey, what are you ladies doing?" And he's got this, he's like, "I'm from Saskatchewan." And he's got this really high pitched voice in Canadian accent. And he just sounds like such a dork. And they just start laughing at him, right? And they tell him to go away. And that's just a good example of how, like, even if you're a good looking guy, like, because all these guys think, oh yeah, if you're just good looking, no, you still have to have game, because yeah, it'll get you the audition. But if you're talking to a girl and you're like nervous and stuttering and you just like have no confidence, even if you're good looking, yeah, it's not going to make a difference. So
Definitely. I mean, I think there's a lot of overlap. The guys who are crushing it online game can also crush it in real life, and vice versa. The guys who crush it, the easiest clients have to coach are the naturals who have been really good at cold approach. I can get good so fucking fast, like literally in an hour. And I would say if you're really struggling in one department, you'll struggle in another department, because it's not like if, like, you know, let's say you are really overweight. It's not like girls in real life don't care. Like, oh, it's only these online broads, they care if you're fat and lazy. These in real life girls, they don't give a shit. Yeah, I mean, I think it all comes down to trying to maximize your sexual market value. I think, you know, me and you will probably agree on this. Like, I think any guy can increase his sexual market value by 2.5 points. So if you're a 5, good news, you have the potential to be a 7.5. You'll never be a 10 if you're a 5, but you can be, unless fame is status, but like take that out of the equation, you can be 7.5, which is pretty good.
And that'll get you plenty of results. You know, at that point, it's like a numbers game, based on, you know, whatever. It's just like any kind of sales process. So you're talking about this earlier. It's like maybe it takes you 100 interactions to get one result. Maybe it takes you 50, whatever it is. If you know what that ratio is, you can improve it as much as possible with game. But then there's a limit to how much you can improve it to, and then you know what the numbers are. So then you just know how much volume you need, right? And that's it. You get a bunch of volume, you get a bunch of results. You know. So.
Yeah. And I think one of the advantages with online game is it actually doesn't matter what your sexual market value is. It matters what your perceived sexual market value is. So let's say you have two identical twins. They're both they're both 8s. One of them has kind of shitty photos because they have not seen the PWF videos, so they're perceived as a 7. One of them has really, really solid photos, and he's perceived as a 9, right? Which is something I see all the time, you know. And that 9, who's perceived as a 9, even though identical twins, he's going to have much, much better results. So a lot of this is just how you position yourself. I think a lot of guys do themselves a disservice just by having shitty pics. You look like you have something in mind.
I got an example for you. Actually, if you want to let me share my screen, I'll show you my own difference between really good photos and bad ones, so the guys can see this. So here we go. So here's my photo filler. And okay. And it's also the photos that you don't think, right? Smiling photos do better than shirtless photos, surprisingly, right? But you look at this and it's like, okay, so these are like, you know, 9.7, 9.8, right? These photos, but you know, you take the same guy who I am, right? And if I go down here, it's like, oh yeah, this one didn't do too well, 4.1. Look at this. I thought this would do good. This should be like, you know,
I'm too post. That's the problem. It's too post.
Yeah. So, but it's a 5.2, you know, here with my abs even, right? You know, even this one, I was like, yeah, this is a good photo. Look at this. And it's like a 6.4, right? So, you know, the difference, like if I made a profile and I had these photos, I'm like, yeah, look at this. I've got ripped abs. Girls are going to love this. Yeah, maybe not so much, right? Whereas some of the photos you wouldn't even expect, it's like, okay, well, this one's 9.7. And it also ranks on smart and trustworthy. And, you know, so yeah, so it's critical to get good photos. It makes a hell of a difference. Like, think about like me being the same guy. If I use these photos versus I use the ones down here, how much of a difference is it going to make?
And I mean, for sure, there's a lot to unpack here. But well, as one thing, I will say that I don't think photo feeler is better than nothing. It's a good starting point for sure. I do think that, because I've done a lot of like experiments on this, where I would actually take 4 or 5 girls who I know and trust and have the great photos and compared to photo feeler. And I do think photo feeler is somewhat inaccurate. I have seen that, but you know, kind of just what you showed me, those pictures that are at the top are definitely better than those at the bottom. I think the big difference is the ones at the top, they look a lot more natural. You don't look posting them. You're not like, you're just more relaxed and just looks like you're doing some activity and someone took a picture of you, which I think is key. You know, I think the one type of person that might do better with online game versus in real life game is a virgin. Someone who's just has so much fucking have this virgin stigma, because when you talk to a girl in real life, like most of the time it's going to be obvious, like after a bit, that you are very inexperienced. But with online game, when I have virgin clients, that's what I tell them to do. Screen aggressively, get a girl straight to your place for a fuck date, where literally all you have to do is show up and have a dick. Like, you want to put yourself in that kind of situation. Just get a few wins. After that, you start challenging yourself more. But initially, get the win, right? So I think that might be like the one thing.
That's good. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, let's take a few more questions. Some red pillars tell me to stop focusing on women, aka approaching, and focus on getting a STEM degree instead. What's your okay? Degrees are practically worthless nowadays, at least is my opinion. But okay, let's go first, John, and then.
Yeah. So in some ways I agree. I mean, okay, so if they're telling you to look for choosing signals, they're full of shit. So let me just say that, because that's some bullshit. And if they're telling you that approaching is beta, they're also full of shit, because approaching is not beta. That's the most alpha thing that you can do. Okay. You know, so sit back and hope that girls come to you. But here's where I do agree. This is what I tell guys. I was like, get your shit together in your 20s. Okay. Because women want guys, you're going to have a lot more success with women in your 30s and possibly your 40s, especially getting the younger girls, because they want older men so here's what you do. Okay. Learn some game, of course. Obviously, you don't need to be a virgin in your 20s. You can go but don't waste so much fucking time just doing game YOLO. Instead, in your 20s, focus on making your 30s as best as possible. So that means going to the gym, getting in shape, building your physique. That means reading a lot of books, a ton of books. You notice me, Alex and I both talk about books a lot. That's because that's how you're going to fucking become a better guy in business and everything, and be more successful in life, is reading fucking books. Okay. So read a lot of fucking books. Okay. Get a business started, start creating your own business, start focusing on your career, right? And building up your finances, investing, buying some real estate if you can do that. Okay. Mindset. Okay. Again, work out who you are as a man, become grounded as a man, work on those things, go and hang out with other strong men so you can develop that masculinity. Then by the time that you're like 30, let's say 35, okay, and you've gone out and you've dated some women and stuff like that, you've learned some game, but by the time you're like 30, 35, now you're in the position to just fucking slay it. Okay. Instead of wasting all your time in your 20s trying to get girls it's gonna be harder. But when you're in your 30s and even up into your 40s, you can be way more successful because you've set yourself up for success. Yeah. Whereas right now in your 20s, let's say you're 22 and you're trying to get girls that are 22, you're playing on hard mode. Okay. Those girls are not as interested in guys that are in their 20s. They're more interested in guys that are in their 30s, that are successful, that are, have built, themselves up in all those areas. Right. So I'm not saying that you can't play the game at all. I'm just saying that, like, put more of your focus on making your life better. In fact, just the way you should be living your life in general is you should always be living your life to optimize it to 5 years from now. So one of the things that I talk about is, like, every day I have a box. Okay. And I fill that box with good shit, and I address it at the end of the box, or at the end of the day, to myself 5 years from now, and I ship it off. Right. I'm always thinking of that mindset of always creating things today that are going to benefit me 5 years in the future.
Yeah. I mean, the way I look at this, and I didn't come up with an analogy I'm about to make, I read this in some book, is you can live for the present or you can live for the future, right? So the book talks about how people who only live for the present, they become like drug addicts because they want that instant gratification, or they go down rabbit holes, right? And the people who only live for the future, they're not really, they don't want the instant gratification, but they're not really content with their life. And the book makes the argument that really the best way to do it is to best of both worlds. And I do think, so this is one area where you and I agree, when you're younger, it should be maybe like 70-30, 70% living for the future, 30% living for the present. Like, I would say right now at this point in my life, it's like 60-40, like 60% for the future. But like, I also try to do some things that I enjoy, like at least a few times a week, right? So, yeah. And I think that it's just, I hate this argument that I see in the Red Pill community and in other communities, because you can so easily do both. Like, what the fuck are you doing as a 21-year-old that you're so busy, in college that you can't even like talk to girls. Like fucking doesn't take that long. So yes, if you want to have if you want to be a scientist, you want to be an engineer, then get a STEM degree. I think that if you want to have your own business or something like that, then degree is going to be a waste of time. And this is coming from someone who went to a business school, a good business school, that was very expensive. But I still feel like, it didn't help me at all. I think that's just the sad reality, but that's a whole different tangent. I think that you should do both, and you can easily do both. Like, don't spend like 24/7 approaching. Like, that's a problem with some of the pickup guys. They spend all their time approaching. And honestly, like that's a mistake I made in my early 20s. Like all my days, I would just be doing cold approach. And like I had no money, had no fitness, I had no other things going for me. It was just all cold approach. And that was not the correct way to live my life. But I think also the other extreme is just when you're purely living for the future, that's also not the correct way to live your life. And the second point I want to make, this is something that me and the modern life dating guy were disagreeing on the panel, is he was making the argument that basically like if you get your life handled, the women just appear into your life. I'm like, no, they don't. Unless you're famous, like you still have to talk to girls and you still have to know game. Like they don't just appear in your life. This is just like a pure red pill fantasy that like you get your life handled and the women are just there. They just popped out of nowhere. Like I woke up this morning, there's a naked girl laying next to me. So you need both. You should get your life handled and you also need game.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Let's take like one last question.
Sure.
Oh damn! I got the biggest super chat I've ever gotten. $15. Damn.
Oh, nice.
I want to end it off on a good question.
When do I pull out my winky?
Yeah, this is something I've talked about. It's a topic I refuse to talk about on YouTube for obvious reasons. But like, it's like an inside joke a lot of guys have.
If you have to ask that question, you should just know.
You know what? Let's end it off on this.
Okay.
This is one of the best discussions you've ever had on this channel. It was a really great. I don't know if it's the best I've ever had, but it's definitely a great discussion. It's in the top 5 or whatever. And I think that it's important to have like kind of what we were saying earlier. It's important to kind of have like discussions, where there's mutual respect and all that shit. So I hope there's going to be more of these discussions. Like I want to definitely have other people on, and you and I we don't really disagree on anything at all. Really, I found.
Not really.
We're pretty much think most of the same shit. I think the only difference is like, how old are you?
I'm 40.
Yeah, so I'm 30. So we're in a slightly different place in life, I think. But other than that, I think pretty much agreeing on everything. I think it's okay to disagree with people and just have good debates. John,
your best years are coming, man.
Yeah, hopefully. I got the Siberian Husky now. I got the YouTube channel. I got random incels sliding into my DMs. Like things are going in the direction. I made it, Mom. I made it. So, John, if people want to, follow more about you, learn more about your coaching, like how can they go about that?
Yeah, the best thing to do is just to go to bulldogmindset.com, and then there'll be a pop-up that shows up to ask if you want to take the Bulldog quiz, which of course you do because you want to know what your Bulldog score is. I basically 10 questions. I'll give you a score from 0 to 100, and then it basically determines your mental toughness. Really, that's what it really kind of.
If you get 100, you get a Bulldog in the mail.
That's it. but yeah, and then I'll send you some emails talking about like how to raise the score and some videos and stuff like that. You'll be kind of integrated into my whole community there. So bulldogmindset.com.
Awesome. And yeah, this is something I can definitely get behind because I'm all about taking responsibility and taking action and being basically like the way I've seen you define the Bulldog mindset is it's like the opposite of a victim mindset. It's all about like responsibility and taking action, which is something that I always preach at PWF. And I think it's important. So I definitely encourage you guys to do so. We'll put all the links in the description. So if you're watching this non live, you just check the description for all the links. All right, bro. Thank you for coming on. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, good discussion. So
for sure, man. Stay on for a second after I end the broadcast so we can chat. All right, guys. Thanks for tuning in. So we got some cool videos coming out this week. I just stumbled like crazy. We got James Tusk coming on Sunday. We got Trip Advice coming on sometime in the near future. So we got some cool interviews. I've been trying to get actually some porn stars on. I got an email from James Dean today. James Dean, the porn star. He was like, He was like, "Hey man, thank you for the offer, but I'm kind of over being like the whole James Dean thing. I'm tired of people recognizing me at grocery stores and shit. I just want to have a normal life now." I'm like, "All right, dude, I understand that. If you change your mind, come on." But I'm sure I'll get some point stories on.
Sterling, have you talked to Sterling Cooper?
Yeah, he's been on the channel twice.
Oh yeah, okay, awesome. Yeah, he's a good guy.
Yeah, Sterling is awesome. I really like that guy.
And his program is fucking fire. It is really good, his program.
Yeah, because I'm doing affiliate for them, so like I've seen people buying it all the time, but like I actually have to like look at the program myself. But from the way he described it, it sounds like really awesome. Like there's nothing out there, so
it's good. You will see his winky, but it is good.
I mean, I feel like you can't really be a Sterling fan if you don't see his dick. Like I think like I haven't seen it yet. I'm kind of hoping to keep it that way because at this point I consider him like a friend / acquaintance, but I feel like it's just like impossible. All right, guys. So thanks for tuning in. We are going to have some awesome videos, some awesome podcasts. So make sure you hit the like, subscribe button, follow John, Bulldog Mindset, check out the links. Till next time.
Take care.